back to the phone lines. We'll talk next to Andrew. Andrew's listening in Springfield, Missouri on Bot Radio. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, how are you? I'm in a loud place. Can you hear me okay?
You sound wonderful.
Awesome. All right. I'd like your opinion on, in 1 Corinthians, I believe it's where Paul pleaded with the Lord on 3 occasions to remove the thorn from his flesh. So from that, what does he mean by pleading? Because it seems to be different than from asking, because I'm asking about, the same, a similar thorn in the flesh, but I feel like I'm doing it all day long. So am I not trusting enough? Am I not pleading enough? Is there a relationship? Or is his a model? I guess I'm just kind of confused on what he means by pleading in those scriptures, in that what it's said about his thorn in the flesh.
Yeah, well, think about this. First of all, you want to read Scripture in light of Scripture. And when you do that, you find out what the thorn in the flesh is to begin with. My view is that thorn in the flesh is simply a Hebrew idiom. And it is an idiom that is describing the continued persecutions that were faced by Paul. And Paul is using this idiom in the same way as you find in the Old Testament in books like Numbers, where the Canaanites, who were not driven out of the promised land and were allowed to remain, were a thorn in the flesh. That idiom used again there in the Old Testament, a thorn in the flesh and a constant reminder that kept Israel dependent upon God and away from dependence upon themselves. And you can really recognize the significance of this with respect to the Apostle Paul. On the one hand, he would plead for the Lord to remove this kind of persecution. What else would you do? When you're persecuted, and I've gone through this in life and ministry, you pray, Lord, please remove this thorn or this persecution from my life. I can't bear it anymore. But on the other hand, you can understand why the Lord would allow the thorn in the flesh to remain. It is because when you are someone like the Apostle Paul, erudite, intelligent, very well connected. He had everything that would cause someone to be pompous and proud. And yet the thorn in the flesh kept him in a humble state, recognizing his day-to-day dependence upon the Lord. So on the one hand, the thorn in the flesh is a blight. On the other, it is a great blessing. Because again, it reminds you that you are frail and feeble in the big scope of things, no matter how much you know. Even if you're the Apostle Paul, who wrote 2/3 of the New Testament epistles, you are still a feeble human being. Your arm of flesh is weak. The arm of God is strong. So your dependence is not in your own flesh, but in the arm of the Lord.